This lesson is on inserting data into a table using phpMyAdmin. Now, we're picking up where we left off. We had just created the realtor file, and I want to use phpMyAdmin to insert some test data. So there is an insert tag up here. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now, by default, we get 2 rows of data that we can enter. You can see all the columns here, and then another row down here. Now remember, the realtor ID was set up as being auto increment. It's an integer, and it'll be generated automatically, so we don't want to put a value in there for that. So let's go ahead and put in some information. I'm going to enter the first realtor, which is Wei, first name Lee. So Mr. Lee Wei has a phone number of 777-555-1111. And his email address is lee@kingreal.com. Now, recall that in the previous assignment, we had to go through file structures and directories to find image files that we were going to display on the page. What we're going to do here is put the image file name and use that to put it in the source tag of the image file, and we won't even have to open a file anymore or worry about that. So his file name was lee.jpg. Okay, so that's the first realtor we have. The next one was Contrary Mary. Okay. And here we're going to put her phone number, and her email is Mary@King. And the image file for Mary was Mary.jpg. So we've got these 2 data rows filled in. Nothing in the realtor ID, and that will be generated. So I click the Go button. And you can see the insert that it actually used here. Now, interesting, look at this insert here. It has realtor ID listed here, and values are null, right? Null for that one, and then null for the second one. So let's go do a browse. And let's look at realtor ID. Realtor ID is 3 and 4. The reason it didn't start with 1 is I've been doing some testing before showing you this, and I had added some realtors and removed them. So it remembers where it left off. I had added these guys earlier. So they were 1 and 2 previously, but after I deleted them, it still remembered that the last one we did was 2, so it started the next one with 3 and 4 and so forth. So it'll keep this unique by just adding 1 every time a row is inserted into this table. So we've got 2 pieces of data. If I wanted to change something, I could click either on this Edit button, which would bring it up in just a 1-row format, and I could change the phone number to 22 or something and go back, and it would edit it. You can see it's changed there. I can do an inline edit and go here and change it back. And the way you get that to apply is to hit the Save button over here. If I wanted to delete the row, I'd click on that. I don't want to do that. If I want to do multiple changes or multiple deletes, I click on the buttons over here, and I use these down here for change or delete. Okay, I don't want to do that. Now, if I were going to make a new row that was very much like the old row, say some of this data repeated, I could click the Copy button. And it would create another row here with all these fields in it, and if I just was making slight adjustments to it, I'd override it and then put that data in. I'm not now, so I'm going to go back and browse it. But I'm just showing you some of the features here. It's very nice stuff. Now I want to show you how we can get a look at both the structure of the table and the inserts that were used. So we're going to actually get the create statement that phpMyAdmin used to create the table behind the scenes. Because that's what this does. This is just an application that's building these SQL statements for us and then running them. So we're going to click on Export. So I'm not going to go with a quick, I'm going to go with a custom so you can see some of the options. Dump all rows. Okay, we're going to dump them. Now I want the output saved to a file, and I'm going to give this file a name. I'm going to call it realtor. Actually, I don't have to call it dot anything. It'll save it as a .SQL format here. There are other formats we could save this as, but by saving it in SQL format, we could run this separately either through our program, we could copy it into there and issue it there, or we could run it in an interactive tool like the tool we had been using earlier in class. But I'm going to save it as SQL. Display comments, that's fine. Disable foreign key checks, I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm going to want to see structure and the data. Now I want to add a drop table statement, and I'm going to deselect the create procedure function event. I don't need that here. What the drop table statement is for is if I'm going to make improvements to this table now by running code, I can drop the table first and then run it again with my improvement, so it'll constantly refresh it effectively. Usually when we're first creating a table and just using a few test rows, often tables go through iterations when we're developing it. We realize, oh, we need another column, or oh, that column should be a little bit larger. And this is when we're in development mode, not in production mode, obviously. So there's a couple of options here that I'll leave here. I don't like the back quotes myself. It's probably safe to leave them on, but I'm going to take them off here. And we go down here. This is allowing our inserts to be built in series, so we don't have a full insert values every time. You can do it like this, where you series of rows, and it's a nice way to go. So I'll leave everything else the same. Now, I'm going to click the Go button, and I want to save the file. So I click OK. Now, after creating the table, I'm going to go and I put it in my Downloads directory over here. I have it here as a Realtor 1 is the latest one, and this is what I did a little earlier. So I'm going to open this with TextPad so we can see what the sequel looks like. So first we have some things that you probably don't have to be that concerned about, just the date, time, what server it was using, which PHP, etc., and some notes up here. Now down here we see the table structure. It's for the table Realtor. I'm going to put a space here just to make it easier. It says drop table if exists Realtor. So it's going to try to drop it if it's there. And it'll try to create it if it's not there. Okay, it won't try to create it otherwise, so it won't give us an error. Now you can see here by looking at it, it's a regular create statement. Realtor ID, int, not null, auto increment, we see all that. It looks perfect. The defaults, null. Okay, it added maybe a little more than we would have done if we'd done it manually, but it worked. And if we look down here, we see this insert statement where we have Way, Lee, Contrary, Mary, and all the information. And so you can now use this SQL file, and if you needed to just make a minor change to the table, let me go back up here. If I needed to change this to be 20, for example, I could change it to 20, and then I could run it in the SQL window of phpMyAdmin, or I could run it through that full screen interface that I supplied to you earlier. This ends our lesson on inserting data with phpMyAdmin.